Hey, Aurelia Wynn checking in. Happy Monday. Today we are going to be talking about how to write a book. And so if you weren't here last week, go ahead and check out some of the replays. We kind of just jumped right into the deep end, and now we're pedaling back to bring some of you writers up to speed. Listen, I get this question all the time. Hey, Miss Wynn, they'll say, hey, Miss Wynn, I got an amazing idea for a book, but I don't know where to get started. Listen, I'm here to tell you today, how do you get started? You just start, right? The most successful people do not wait until they are ready. They just start somewhere. They just start and they just start messy, but then what happens is they shorten their learning curve and they get the resources, they get the knowledge, and then they go from there. And so maybe you're at a point where you've already just started, things are kind of messy, and now you're ready to learn. Okay, let's talk. So step one, I would say choose your tool. And these are some of the steps that I use for myself and for writing books that I'm working on. Choose your tool. How are you going to write this book? Are you going to write it by hand? I know a lot of people have said, that they have journals and journals and journals of stuff. And so, okay, can you go back and look at those journals and see if there is an overarching theme? Is it just your life? If so, what's the value in that? Why do we need to know about you? Right? And this is just being honest and real. But that would be an example of someone who has used like a pen or a pencil to just write out their story first. And in fact, in two of these, this one is my gratitude journal, which super cute, by the way, and I love it. These two journals here, so I actually started writing books by hand. Hey, come on in. And so that's my favorite way to start writing a book is by hand. I also write in cursive, and so it just lets me get my ideas out of my mind and onto paper as quick as possible. And so that's how I do it. Absolutely, you don't have to write it out by hand. You are welcome to type it out, right? That might shorten the process for you if you just go ahead and type it out. Or you can use voice to text. And so I know there are some people who just, maybe you're not really good at writing, or your ideas might come to you too fast for you to actually sit down and write it or type it or whatever. Maybe you're not good with the keyboard or whatever it is that might be stopping you. You can use a voice to text app. Google Docs actually has one. If you have any kind of, I have an iPhone, and so sometimes I will use my iPhone's voice to text app, like in my notes, to catch up on part of a book that I'm working on. And so your first step is going to want to be, you're going to want to choose your tool for writing. How are you actually going to get it done? Are you going to write it out by hand with a journal? Kind of like how I do. I have several journals filled with stories, and that's kind of how I do it. And then what I'll do is I'll go back and I'll type out what's written, and I'll kind of edit it along the way. And I will get into that in just a second, because a lot of times, one of the, hey, come on in. One of the, I want to say is a dangerous piece of advice that people give to writers is not to edit while you're writing. And there's a place and a time for that. I guess you need to define what you mean by editing. And in this case, hey, thank you. I will keep up the good work. In this case, editing while you're writing means don't be sending chapter by chapter to your editor. If you're going to edit while you're writing, as in like correct something or clarify something for your reader, go ahead and do that. Delete, cross it out, whatever, and then go ahead and clarify or reword what you were just writing. Do that. But as far as like editing while you're writing, I do not recommend sending your editor chapter by chapter, because that will just take you so much longer. And when I first got started with Win Publications 4 years ago, that's how I did it with one author. And oh my God, it took us a whole year to get through their book. Whether if they would have just written it out and then edited it, and then we went through the process, it would have gone so much smoother. And so I'm just telling you from example, go ahead and write it. If you need to delete something, cross something out, fix something, do that, and then continue to move forward and then get it to an editor. But the second step, after you choose your mode of writing, you're going to either want to outline it, or you're going to want to just write. Just write, think later, as in we're not working on our marketing strategy. We're not working on our business plan. We are focused on writing. We are focused on writing. I like to use an outline because I get caught off on tangents. I don't know if you've seen any of my lives in the past, but now I know better, right? I got my notes. I know what I'm going to talk about, and I'm going to stick to it. Because I can easily get caught up on a tangent with talking, and I'm very much the same way with writing. I'll start telling a story like this, and then next thing you know is going all the way left. And so I'm someone who outlines my stories. What's up, girl? Hey, how are you? And so that's what works for me. And I know a lot of people will say, you know, Aurelia, well, sometimes God just drops a story in my spirit. Hey, that's great. That's amazing. I wish he would show up for me in that way. Maybe he does. Maybe my mind just be so clouded, and you know, I got so much to say, and so I have to organize it, right? So for me, I like to organize my writing before I actually get it down. However, I would highly suggest, if you are going to just write it as it comes to you, that you make sure you at least have a checklist, as in, you know, that you have a clear beginning where you set the stage, you set the setting, we know who your main character is, we know what the problem that they're trying to solve is, we know the purpose of the story. We should know that within like the first 30 pages. And I'm just saying that as a publisher, because if I get to page 30 and I am bored with your story, it's just not gonna work for me. And so, and that could just be my preference. Definitely, hey, I'm doing well. Definitely, if it's a slow burn, let that be known with like a preface or something. Let us know that, hey, this is going to take a little bit of time to warm up to. You know, it might be chapter 3 before you actually get into the story. But I wouldn't recommend that. I would not recommend that. I would hook the reader right away and continue to keep them engaged, right? Books that I get through in a day make me feel some type of way. And then books that also keep me, like, for example, I have a friend who let me read his book, and it took me maybe 2 weeks to get through it. Not because it was a slow burn, but because I had a journal while I was reading the book, because it had so much like philosophy and like things that I needed to think deeper about. And so I was like, okay, that took me 2 weeks. But in most cases, it doesn't take me that long. But then a lot of times I also don't read books all the way through because I'm bored by page 30. And that's just me. I'm that type of reader. If I'm not finding nothing interesting, or it's not hooking me, or there's like no suspense, or I'm just not connecting or relating with the characters, a lot of times I will set it down and I won't read past page 30. And so that's just something to think about when you're writing or when you're organizing your book. Yeah, you can just write as it comes to you, but baby, in those first few thousand words, you've got to hook the reader. You absolutely have to hook the reader if you want your book to be read. It's one thing for the reader to purchase your book, but it's a completely different thing for them to read it. And if, you know, just a pro tip, if you want to get your book on like Amazon KDP, they do have a program where you actually get paid per page read. And so making sure that your book is readable and that it's engaging to your reader is going to be important if that's something that you want to do later. Now, I know I said right now, think later, but that's just a pro tip to keep in mind, right? Just bottom line, make sure that your book is engaging. And so the structure of writing a story is, like I said, in the beginning, you want to make sure that you hook your reader, you identify the clear problem that they're trying to solve. Now, I'm talking about like fiction, work of fiction, or even nonfiction. Really, you've got to have something, right? But I mean, there's special cases for like cookbooks, poetry books, I don't know, short stories. Sometimes there's things that it doesn't follow that exact pattern. That's okay. Even when it comes to writing those type of books, like poetry or recipe books, there's still a format and a structure that you follow. And so it's knowing those things, it's knowing those structures, it's knowing those standards to make sure that you hit each of those points. At any case that you are not hitting those points or you don't know what those points are, that's when you need to stop and do some research. So that would be number 3. If you get stuck, a lot of times writer's block can come from a number of things. Sometimes it's we just lost inspiration or we don't know what else to talk about. Use Google or something. Type in, the subject matter for which you're writing, or type in the subject matter for like whatever your book is about. For example, let's say that I am writing a story about a teenage love affair or something, and I get stuck and I just don't know what else to say about the situation. Well, I'm going to get on Google and I'm going to type in teenage love affair, and probably Alicia Keys might come up. Whatever, I don't know. I'm just saying, but type in whatever you need to help yourself. I feel like a lot of times authors and writers and creatives forget that our superpower, our super strength is in our creativity. If you can just stop for a minute and imagine, close your eyes, take a couple of deep breaths and imagine different solutions for your own problem. For example, I had someone tell me, hey, Aurelia, I've written this book many years ago. I put it down, life happened, and I'm having trouble picking it back up. Well, I would say pick it back up and read through it. And if there's ideas that come to your mind while you're reading through it, write those ideas down somewhere. Have a journal next to you while you're reading your story, to give yourself just a new perspective on the old story that you've written. Even myself, I absolutely take my own advice. I just showed you all that I have a couple of journals that have stories written in them. I have not looked at these in a long time, but I am really soon. After I get out, I have a journal that I'm working on called Restore, a journal for language artists, and then I also am working on a book for independent authors. It's just basically a roadmap for them. And after that, then the next thing that I'll be working on is getting to my journals to write my actual, I don't even know what it's gonna be yet. Honestly, it'll probably be an anthology. I don't know if I want it to be an anthology or if I want it to be a series. And so, but what I'm saying is, one of the things that I'm gonna do before, one of the things that I'm gonna do before I actually sit down to write it is read what I have so far. And that's gonna help you get over that writer's block. Read through what it is that you already have down to get fresh ideas. And so that's it. That's basically how you write it. Start messy. Choose how you're going to write it down, whether it be by pen and paper, whether you type it up, whether you use some voice to text type of app. Do that. Decide whether you're going to outline your book or whether you're going to write it as it comes to you, making sure that you actually are telling a story with the beginning where you're introducing your characters, you're giving us the setting, and you're giving us the problem, where it has a middle where there's some action going on, they're getting close to a solution, and then there's an end where there's some sort of relief, some sort of climax, something that brings it all the way around. And then research. If you get stuck, do some research. You are amazing. You are a creative. You can imagine. You can take your time to rest and imagine and finish writing. The worst thing that you can do while you're writing is to think about things that have nothing to do with your book. When you are writing, just write. Think later. Hey, that's it. That's it for tonight. What did you think? If you found value in tonight's conversation and you are looking for more information on how to write a book, tune in with me tomorrow night, 7:30 p.m. Central Standard Time on Instagram at MissWin_. That's MISSWINN_. If you need more help than just these daily conversations, I highly recommend you get my book, Self-Publishing 101, How to Write a Book from Start to Publish, out now at misswin.com. It's also available on Amazon. It's also available at winpublications.com. Let me know if you have any questions. Put them in the comments and I will respond to you there. Until next time, I will see you tomorrow. Oh, let me not forget, if you are writing with me in the morning, Tuesdays and Thursdays, from 8 a.m. to about 8:30, we are writing together. I mentioned how I have 2 books that I want to write here this month. I want to write and publish this month. And then I am working on, I don't know if it's going to be a series or if it's going to be several short stories. I will see when we get there. All right. That's it for tonight. I look forward to talking to you tomorrow night. Have a good one.